Welcome back to the Early Weigh-In Podcast. This week we got UFC Vegas 60. We go back to the Apex for a big-time headliner at bantamweight division. We got Cory Sandhagen taking on Song Yadong. Winner put themselves one step closer to a title shot here. And in the co-main event, certified banger, man, between Gregory Rodriguez and Chidi and Njokuani. 14 total fights on the books. A lot of these lines super close. A couple underdogs, now favorites. I'm expecting a lot of very close and competitive fights on Saturday. Last weekend, man, UFC 279, what Dana White called a shit show the last 2 days. We had the press conference issues, the weigh-ins. Our podcast basically worthless come Saturday. But hey, good night of fights, 4 finishes on the main card. We saw Nate Diaz go out on top, and you and I both in the green last week, so it doesn't get any better than that. Got you in the cap for the third week, got me a little streak going, looking to close that gap. And, man, I thought our reads, we had some really good reads last week, and looking to keep that momentum turning into this week.
Absolutely happy to wear the hat as long as we're both going positive. We'll take a look at yours first. You swept the straight picks. You had Alatang Haley looked phenomenal, definitely covered his price tag. The Irene Aldana fight got a little choppy, 1-1 going into the third, and she got the finish. Minus 162, I would argue that she covered her price tag as well. It was Jake Collier that messed up both of our nights. You had a parlay with Collier in it, minus 340. I don't know, man. I think you run that fight back, he wins at a pretty good clip. But maybe, it's low-level heavyweights. We've got to learn at some point. The both of us. Exactly, yeah. Plus 566 units on the night. Awesome night. And then over to my card. We had similar picks the whole night. Tony Ferguson was the one, not a lot of time to research it. I just wanted to get some money on that main event, and it didn't pay off. I thought he looked good, and maybe if he would have pounced on Nate Diaz when he started walking away from him, had that killer instinct, he could have done something with it. But all around, did pretty good on the picks. Like I said, Collier to win was the big shitter. It was Gelton Almeida, which we both actually cashed on him. I put him to win by sub round 1 plus 220. That was a big help, and I ended up the night plus 3.5 units. Both of us looking to roll it into next week. We have an excellent fight the UFC has put together for our main event between Cory Sandhagen and Song Yadong. Cory Sandhagen trying to find his footing in the division again after suffering back-to-back losses. And he's up against a young, hungry prospect in Song Yadong, who's riding a 3-fight win streak coming into this bout. I know for Song, this will easily be his biggest test to date so far. I got to give credit where it's due. He's made amazing progress in the UFC, having gone 8-1-1 and still only being 24 years of age. He's one of a kind, and I do expect things out of him in the future. That being said, we do have to look at his current skill set and his matchup against Cory Sandhagen. And spoiler alert, I kind of think it's pretty lopsided towards Cory Sandhagen. Song is going to be at a disadvantage in size, length, experience, and frankly, fight IQ. I think, Sandhagen, he's the dark horse of the division. On any given day, he could beat whoever's holding the belt at the time. Just things have not been swinging in his direction recently. He has a very unique way of using his footwork and length to set up those power strikes like the flying knees. And while he's doing that, he's never allowing his opponents to really find their rhythm because of his unpredictable movements. For Song to find success in this matchup, I think he'll need to find his way on the inside of Cory's range, which is a whole lot easier said than done. And truthfully, I don't believe that Song has developed a good enough kicking game to actually disrupt the movement of Sandhagen and get inside like he needs to. I think this fight takes place on the feet more often than not, so I'm primarily focusing this breakdown on the striking. I do think that Sandhagen would have the hypothetical edge in grappling and is more likely of the two to mix it in. That being said, I do think that Sandhagen's just going to be beating Song to the punch. Song's going to be more or less following him around the octagon for 25 minutes. And I think the longer that this fight goes, the more power shots that Song's having to throw, I think that he will wear down in his first 5-round fight, and we'll see Sandhagen start to take it down the stretch. I'm excited for this fight. I think a lot of people are on Song. It seems like that line's continuing to move down, and I think both of us are looking at this similar.
Yeah, man. I'm on the Cory Sandhagen side as well. I think this is some solid matchmaking done for you. Got Song, who is a number 10 ranked fighter. he's trying to get that crack at the first division's elite, and he's taking on someone, like you said, who's trying to get his footing back. But man, for someone like Sandhagen, who's 2-3 in his last 5, the losses are to the division's elite. We're talking about, Peter Yan, Aljamain Sterling, and you can very much argue that he walks away with the TJ Dillashaw fight on any other night. You talked about his size for the division, man, at 5'11". Not only is it nice to have, but he uses it very, very well. He's very loose on the feet, hands down. He just flows from both stances with his footwork. So many feints, closing that dead space. He stays behind his jab. Dude's going to throw twice the volume of Song. And one thing I know I can trust for Cory Sandhagen is that gas tank over 5 rounds. For Song, you talked about it, extremely young, man, at 24 years old. He's pretty much the Chinese superstar right now, team alpha male. He's got a lot going for him, but I think the jump to the division's elite here is a little bit too early for him. His hands are fast. I think his hand speed is going to be, a factor here, as it is in a lot of his fights. I think he's, of course, got the power advantage. If that could play a factor on the judges, but I think he will, like you said, have trouble closing that distance. I think he should probably look to throw a lot to the body here. Cory has a long body to hit, but is also very elusive himself, and I think if we see Song headhunting here, he's going to be very unsuccessful doing so. He's 4-1 in his last 5, but a lot lower caliber of guys too. You look at wins over Casey Kinney and Julio Arce. These guys don't hold a torch to the Peter Yans, Aljamain Sterlings, and you touched on it there at the end about this being his first 5-round fight. It's not just that, but we've already had reasons to question his gas tank. The draw with Cody Stamann, the Cheeto fight where Cheeto's kind of robbed in that fight, and the Kyler Phillips fight as well. These are all 3 rounds, and not only is he already KO reliant, I've seen the gas tank fade, and he historically has been durable, but Cory's going to take over this fight late as I see it. I like his 4-5 decision prop sitting at -115. I'm happy to get on the Sandhagen side as well. In our co-main event, we have Chidi and Njokuani taking on Gregory Rodriguez. Dude, another incredible matchmaking by the UFC. Absolute banger, and it's one of my favorite co-main events that I've gotten to break down this year. Both of them coming off round 1 TKOs. Incredible size for the middleweight division, and the finishing upside in this fight, I think, is extremely high. Chidi just looked like an absolute motherfucker lately, He is signed a little bit late to the UFC at 33 years old, but it comes with a ton of experience and everything already. Fantastic kickboxer. He is well, long and rangy, and knows how to use it. But at the same time, I have to, I can't ignore the glaring holes that he does have in his grappling. He's been easily grounded and easily finished when the fight hits the ground a couple times in Bellator. And, especially as he climbs the ranks in the middleweight division, faces the Brunson, Vittorias, it's going to be relatively similar, I think. And if I could guarantee you that Gregory Rodriguez was going to come out here and shoot these takedowns early, use that world-class jiu-jitsu, I think it would be an easy bet at now +100, but I just can't guarantee that. When I watch his fights back, no reason to get in that slugfest with Genuine Park, someone you're way bigger than, could have grappled. Armin Petrosian, we're talking about a guy with less than 10 fights who was a kickboxer prior, and you did not make, the grappling what was your easiest path to victory. You didn't make it a main priority. And then Julian Marquez, we saw that guy got wrestled by Maki Pitolo, and you go out there and he doesn't need a takedown, but he doesn't even shoot for it. And then how about I throw in the Jordan Williams knockout on the Contender Series? And there's times where he doesn't show the highest of fight IQ to me, and he's defensively irresponsible as well. I do like his training situation down in South Florida. What is it, Kill Cliff FC, I think is what it's called now. It's hard for me to overlook the fact that Gregory could take it down and make it look easy, and at +100, I think that's what side I'm going to go with. I'm going to expect some violence here, but you got a side you're picking?
Originally, I was on the RoboCop side. I thought he was the much more well-rounded of the 2 fighters with his high-level grappling credentials, along with that aggressiveness and power striking. But, you kind of already talked about it. It's hard to trust my hard-earned money on betting him. He's shown an uncanny ability to get involved in wars and seem to completely forget about that base that he has. An edge in grappling doesn't mean anything when it's not a part of the game plan. Chidi, a legitimate killer on the feet. Outside of the 2 guys fighting for the title next, he might be the biggest threat on the feet in the division as far as pure striking goes. Fast, long, extremely powerful himself. I doubt that the judges are going to get involved for this fight at all. That being said, like you said, Chidi has shown there is a blueprint to beat him. That is the grappling. As we move closer to the fight day, like you said, RoboCop coming into underdog status now. I know for a fact that every single round is going to start on the feet, and I do think that somebody's getting knocked out here. Because of that, I slightly lean Njokuani just because of the better pure striking. I'll probably be laying off entirely, but because of that grappling upside, on the off chance that we do see RoboCop mix it in, I do think that it's safe to assume that he would be the minute winner in a fight that it did go to the judges. So as far as control time, if it finds its way there, I think a good percentage of the time it's RoboCop riding him out. You're getting him at plus money in a fight that I don't expect this actual play to come to fruition, but you are getting plus money on Gregory Rodriguez by decision only. I think that that's a decent way to play a fight that I really don't know how is going to go.
I think it's also a decent way to play on the fight because if anybody's won the decision, I think you're right, and it would be RoboCop.
My fight of the night, I chose Anthony Hernandez taking on Marc-Andre Barriault. It's hard for me not to get excited whenever Fluffy's on a card, man. He's made me some money in the past, and he's just a fun fighter to watch. Outside of that last fight that he had against Josh Fremd where he just couldn't find the finish, he rarely gets the judges involved regardless of how the fight's going for him. Sadly, he's drawn MAB as an opponent, and I'm having a tough time breaking this down. First off, it's the fact that MAB, he's good everywhere. He's got decent striking, decent wrestling, and I kind of liken him to like a Marvin Vettori without Marvin Vettori's gas tank. He's good all around, but not really exceptional at anything. And realistically, I think that the only way I see him winning this fight is the same way that he usually would try and win a fight, and that's by pushing his opponent up against the fence and just grinding out that win. To do that, though, he's going to be forced to deal with the offensive threats of Fluffy. The entire fight, I think the head positioning of Barriault will constantly put him in troubling positions because Fluffy is so good with his guillotines and front chokes. I'd be interested to see who gets on top in the first wrestling exchange. And personally, I think that that'll be a pretty good indicator on who will win, as both guys tend to be better when they're the ones pushing the action in the grappling exchanges than fighting off their back. If Fluffy does find himself on the bottom, I don't see there being much of a finishing threat for MAB, as we've seen Fluffy manage to stay calm and weather the storm from Rodolfo, and that says a lot to me, man. On the feet, I think both guys are subpar, but I would give the volume to Fluffy, which has got to be like the next most important aspect when judging striking, just because technique's not really going to be involved in this fight. I lean Fluffy to get it done, but I understand a stab on MAB, especially by decision only. You get a similar price tag on him, and you don't have to stress the submission attempts from Fluffy, although I do think that there is a path to victory for MAB, so I like that.
Yeah, so to me, when I break down this fight, I was quite shocked by the odds. I thought maybe not necessarily flipped, but I definitely think they're a little bit wide. I don't want to call Fluffy overrated, but to me he's just kind of like a wild card. I don't necessarily know what's going to show up. I can't take much from a 30-second knockout of Jordan Wright. I see him, choked out by Maluco Perez, who's over in Pello fighting. I see him take a knee to the body and double over from Kevin Holland, and even, he does come back and beat Rodolfo, but we can't act like the first round of that fight was going his way, And then in the Frem fight, he looked good early, but the gas tank, was a bit suspect down the stretch. And on the feet, I don't see enough from him to just say a clear advantage anywhere. I think he is like, Marc-Andre likes to implement the grappling and the wrestling. And I think he's probably has the slicker jiu-jitsu, has the front choke series, like you said. Marc-Andre's going to have to keep the head up underneath the chest or above the chest and be careful with it because he will find some success trying to reach for the guillotine and the anacondas. But if he can stay safe, I just like MAB to just keep this one on the feet, chip away at him, grind him against the cage, use his strength that I think will be a big factor in the fight. And then I think the cardio edge is going to go to Marc-Andre Barriault. So to me, he's a guy that I've always just kind of liked to back until the 16-second knockout from Chidi. He had never been finished before. He showed a good gas tank. We're seeing round 3 finishes. So I think it's a clear dog or pass fight for me, and I'll be talking about MAB here in a second as well. For my fight of the night, I went with Tony Gravely taking on Javid Basharat. I think we got a very good scrap here at bantamweight. Potential for a finish on the table as well. Gravely's a guy that I went to the well with a couple times. I really like the skill set. He's 30 years old, trains at American Top Team, and extremely experienced for his age. When you look down through these guys' resumes, Gravely's got like double the fights, but they turned pro within 6 months of each other, which is pretty crazy to think about. And then you look at the level of competition, much higher for Gravely as well. Very good wrestler, D1, Appalachian State, I believe. More than 6.5 takedowns averaging per 15 minutes, and really starting to improve that boxing as well. He's coming off the finish over Johnny Munoz Jr., and he hurt Nate Maness badly, and he was saved by the bell, but it is that Nate fight that's made me kind of not want to go back to the well with him again sometimes. The gas tank seemed a little bit questionable. His submission defense seems a little bit questionable. He's been subbed 5 times, TKO'd another, and when I look at who I think's the more well-rounded of the two, despite the experience, I think I am going to go with Javid here. And the UFC seems to like the brothers as well. His brother was headlining Contender Series just last night. They train at Extreme Couture, managed by Ali. And he seems like he can do a little bit of everything. I saw him grapple his way to a win on the Contender Series, and then outstriking Trevin Jones in a debut is pretty impressive to me. And Trevin Jones can mix up his game, has a lot of power, and he was able to stay safe on the outside, come away with a clean win. I think he's a better prospect, a little bit younger, faster, longer, great volume on the feet, sports a 92% finish rate. So I'm not sure about minus 200. I do see it coming down a little bit. I'm going to ever so slightly lean toward Basharat, but I'm just expecting some violence here.
For my fighter to watch, I've chose Louis Cosce. I think this is a perfect setup fight for Cosce to make his return in the UFC in a big way after suffering his first professional loss in his UFC debut against Sasha Palatnikov. His debut started exactly how all of his fights up till that point had looked. I thought we were going to witness another easy kill for Cosce, but that was not the case. He blew his wad trying to chase the finish in the first round when he had Palatnikov hurt, and he was just never able to recover before he ultimately got finished in that third round. Now, when I say this is a perfect comeback fight for Cosce, I mean it in the sense that he has a notable opponent in front of him who has suffered back-to-back KO losses in the early rounds of his last fights. And I think my biggest concern with betting Cosce is the chance that he is going to come out timid in this fight to avoid the same mistake of gassing that happened in his last fight. But honestly, that's probably his biggest edge in this bout. Giles is a legit threat, 5-4 in the UFC with wins over big names and some disappointing losses mixed in. But this is not the guy I want Cosce to drag the fight out with. Giles, he has been KO'd in his last 2 fights, and I think there will inevitably be doubt in Giles' mind if he still has the chin that'll be able to hold up and take the punches. And I personally think it would be a mistake for Cosce to change up the game plan that originally got him to the dance. And the UFC is giving him an opportunity to try and erase the memory of his debut. I think that this is all pointing towards a Cosce finish, so that is why he is my fighter to watch.
Nice. I've backed both Cosce brothers a couple times. I can't hate it. I'll be watching that fight as well. Much older person here. I'm going to go with Sarah McMahon for my fighter to watch. 42-year-old Olympic silver medalist. Our female version of Yoel Romero, man. This girl is an excellent minute winner, and it's an easy skill set for me to back when they're going to continue to give me plus money on her as well. And not only is the skill set easy to back, I know for a fact that she isn't going to deviate from that game plan one bit. She knows what got her to the big leagues, and she's shooting takedowns every single fight. Small octagon here back at the Apex. She's not going to have to chase far in the small cage. I expect her to floor Aspen Ladd in round 1, especially in round 2 again. But I've seen Ladd with literally nothing off her back. She's given up takedowns to Dumont, to Sajara Eubanks, and hasn't shown me a dangerous guard. I just expect Sarah to at least bank 2 rounds. We might see Aspen Ladd get that stern talking to going into round 3 again. Might make it a little bit sketchy, but man, I really like Sarah McMahon, who actually opened as the favorite here. I do not agree with the public money coming in on Aspen Ladd. She's got a very, very good shot at winning this and cashing another ticket for me, and my eyes are going to be on Sarah McMahon Saturday.
For my underdog, I have chose Maria Agapova over Jillian Robertson. I think that this is a coin flip type of fight, and I like getting the underdog. And then on top of it, I think that my girl is much more physically imposing than Jillian Robertson, who needs to get this fight to the ground to win it. I think that that's going to be a tall task against Agapova. Like I said, just the physicality, the way that she comes out, she is got some finishing instinct in her, almost to a fault. But I do think that she has a very good chance of winning this fight. She's kind of one of these girls who goes out on her shield, so maybe the under could be another look at this fight. But I do think that she's going to cause some problems for Jillian, and this is just one of those spots where it's a low-level girl fight. There's some physical upsides for one of the girls, and she's a dog. Yeah. I think that long-term, that is a profitable way to tackle these types of fights.
Yeah. I don't know what Jillian's going to do if she doesn't get the fight to the mat, because she's 100% outclassed on the feet. So, good dog, man. I'm going to go with Marc-Andre Barriault for mine. I got him at plus 152, and I don't really have to go too much in depth with it. I thought we did a good job touching on the fight, but I just think it's kind of some still market overcorrection happening here. Fluffy, who was always going to be known for tapping out the jiu-jitsu black belt, and Rodolfo Vieira. And I think in these middling, semi-low-level, outside the top 15 matchups, you're always going to have a little bit of juice next to his name. And I know Marc-Andre has that win over Jordan Wright since, but the 16-second knockout to Chidi is, I think, still in people's heads a little bit, And before that, the guy was historically very durable. I'll be extremely shocked if Fluffy is able to get him out of there, especially with strikes. And much like McMahon, who I just talked about, I think it's a very easy style for me to back, especially at plus money. Durability, grinder, very good gas tank, and you can win minutes. I thought about the decision only. I thought about his decision prop, but I didn't really want to get too greedy with it. I thought plus 152 was a good line. That's implying 39, 40%, and I personally cap him as a slight favorite, if not just a 50-50 fight, So I think the value I got on Marc-Andre Barriault is something I'm riding with Saturday.
For my prop to watch, I am going for a little bit of a long shot, but I've already talked about him a little bit. It's Luis Cosi taking on Trevin Giles. I've got Luis Cosi wins in round 1 plus 750. Ooh. Plus 750, man. I think that that's Cosi's almost only win condition here. And he just has to capitalize on Giles, who's going to be coming out timid after suffering 2 KO losses. As long as Cosi sticks to what got him to the UFC, I do think that this is set up for him to win. And plus 750, I think that the likelihood of him doing that is very good, and I think that that's a great prop to watch.
That's super juicy, man. My number nowhere like this. I'm going to take Alan Amendowski and Joe Pyfer under 1.5 rounds, which can be had somewhere around minus 190 across the different books. I absolutely think it's a setup fight for Joe Pyfer, who was the only person signed on the first episode of the Contender Series, where everybody put on a very lackluster fight except for him. Dana White seems to really like this guy. I think he actually trains out of Daniel Gracie, which is a gym who's undefeated right now, and it doesn't get more of a generous layup here than Alan Amendowski, a guy who's coming off 2 first-round finishes, getting beat by John Phillips, who is pretty one-dimensional, just striker, and then Joseph Holmes going out there and nuking him in round 1-2. I took the under 1.5 because, Pyfer round 1 and 2 was very, very similar in price, and you get both sides here, and Amendowski's going to be slinging big hooks. He's going to make it dirty while it lasts, but 100% setup fight for Pyfer to finish this under a round and a half.
For my best bet of the night, I will be taking Cory Sandhagen. I think this is a huge buy low spot right here. He's coming off of losses to DJ Dillashaw, technically. I think he won that fight, and then Petr Yan. Both of those guys would have their way with Song Yadong. I really do feel that way. And I think that this is just biting off a little more than he can chew at 24 years old. Cory Sandhagen has been in there with the best of the best in the division, and fought an honorable fight against those guys. I think that Sandhagen's going to come in with the experience of 5 rounds, and over the course of the fight slowly pick apart Song, who will run out of options eventually and doesn't, like I said earlier, doesn't have the kicking game to slow down Cory Sandhagen, which is a must if you're going to beat him. So for all those reasons, I think that Sandhagen, especially if you can get him under minus 200, is an absolute steal. And after the fight, it'll just be one of those spots where it was like, what were we thinking, not hitting that harder?
Yeah, man, I'm with you. It's nice to hear me on the same side and that being your best bet. I'm going to take Tanner Boser here. I got him at minus 167. I think I'm going to have some closing line value on him. When I broke this fight down before I went to the odds, I have Boser around 68% here, man, around minus 210. So I think there's some extreme value where I got his line. They both have been out for about a year, so neither one really holds an advantage in activity. If there's an advantage anywhere in this fight, I think it's Nascimento's just pure BJJ. He doesn't even really have the best wrestling, not like Latifi, It's just pure BJJ. Every other thing there, I think, favors Tanner a lot in this matchup. He's the much faster heavyweight. He's much better footwork. He racks up points at range with his leg kicks, and then 20 more professional fights, and at a much higher level as well in the UFC. I think the hand speed is going to be just too much for Nascimento. I think Boser, Latifi gave him some trouble grounding him, but again, Nascimento not that, punishing style wrestler like that. So I trust Boser to be able to keep this on the feet. And on the feet, we watched Dauka's hand speed and footwork in the night of Nascimento super quick. And how about, I bet Nascimento heavy, but Bordeaux, dude, Alan Bordeaux in round one was tearing up Nascimento on the feet until he just gassed. And that's two people that have showed me the lighter, faster heavyweights who have a better striking game can be a big problem for Nascimento. And Nascimento's never been the distance. He doesn't show me a good gas tank. I think Tanner Boser's live to get a finish here in rounds 2 or 3.
Moving on to our quick pick section of the night, we start off in the lightweight division with Nicholas Mata taking on Cameron Van Camp. I'm going to have to go with the odds makers here. I've got Nicholas Mata.
I'm going to lean toward the odds makers as well. Van Camp looked a little bit too hittable last time out, and now he's dropping a weight class, 15-pound weight class. Moving down, 35, Tony Gravely taking on Javid Basharat, my fight of the night. I ever so slightly do lean toward Basharat.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to also go on Basharat. I don't think Tony's going to be the guy to take a 0 away. Moving on to the women's flyweight division, we have Maria Agapova taking on Jillian Robertson. You guys know my feelings on this. I've got Agapova to win.
I think I'm going to side with you, man, and Agapova. Jillian doesn't have much if she can't get the fight down to the mat. Moving up to men's lightweight, Trey Ogden taking on Daniel Zellhuber. Zellhuber seems like he's got the goods. People seem like they're betting him a lot this week, and I'm going to have to agree with him. I actually think he gets Trey Ogden out of there.
Yeah, probably the guy I'm most excited to see debut in a minute. Moving up to the strawweight division, we have Loma Lookboonmee versus Denise Gomez. I don't know what the hell's happening with this line, but I think we're both on Loma here.
I am on Loma, man, and if she gets in the minus 170 range or something like that, if this money keeps coming in, I might have to take a look. Aspen Ladd taking on Sarah McMahon. You know my thoughts, man. My girl Sarah McMahon at plus money. She'll get my unit all day long.
I think this is going to be our first disagreement of the night. I see the plus money being nice, but I do slightly lean Aspen Ladd here. I'll go with Aspen Ladd just slightly. I think she'll be a little bit bigger. Going to the welterweight division, we see Trevin Giles versus Luis Cosi. I'm going Cosi here. I think if I'm picking an outright winner, I think Trevin Giles wins the majority of the time, but I think Cosi has some paths to victory, so I think officially I'll be going Giles.
It's going to be sketch early. I have played the under 2.5 in this fight, but I'm going to lean with Trevin Giles for my pick there to win. Moving on, Damon Jackson taking on Pat Sabatini. I backed Pat Sabatini numerous times. I love the skill set, and I think he negates a whole lot of what Damon Jackson needs to win a fight. Pat Sabatini, baby.
Yeah, I don't know. Looking into this fight, it's scary, but I'm going to go with you. I think Sabatini has all the tools to get it done, but it'll be a sweat. Moving to the middleweight division, Fluffy Hernandez taking on Marc-Andre Barriault. I'm going to go with Anthony Hernandez. I think that it's more likely that he submits Barriault than Barriault getting a decision, but those are the two ways that this fight's going to play out.
Yeah, Barriault's, like you said, probably going to win a decision, but I am getting plus money, and I'm going to pick Marc-Andre Barriault. He is my dog of the week. Tanner Boser taking on Nascimento at 265. I'm big on Tanner Boser here, to be honest with you. I don't think Nascimento has the cardio or the striking to keep up with Boser. And much like Jillian Robertson, if he can't find this fight on the mat, I think he's screwed. Give me Tanner Boser.
Yeah, man. After hearing your breakdown of it, I'm I like Bozer too. I think that he's a solid play. So I'm on Bozer. Moving up to the third fight on the main card, Alan Adamovsky taking on Joseph Pfeiffer. Like you said, this seems to be a setup fight. I'm going to be going with Joe Pfeiffer here.
Yeah, give me Joe Pfeiffer for easy round 1 or 2 finish. Andre Feely versus Bill Algeo, a fight that we didn't really talk about at all, but both these guys are usually in some close, good fights. I think Andre Feely is just a little bit better everywhere, man, to be honest with you. And it's one that I might take a second look at. Might get to the well on Andre Feely, man. What do you think?
I don't think anybody's loving the favorite odds on Feely, but I do agree with you. I think that he is the better out of the two. Definitely deserves a second look. Moving on to the co-main event, we have Chidi and Njokuani taking on Gregory Rodriguez. Officially, I'm going to take Chidi and Njokuani here. I think this fight doesn't see the judges, and I think Chidi's the more likely of the two to catch the chin.
Gut says Chidi. Heart says Gregory Rodriguez. I don't know which one to trust, man. I'm more like you. I think violence is the play here. Give me Gregory Rodriguez to submit him. Cory Sandhagen taking on Song Yadong. Big on Sandhagen, man.
Yeah, Sandhagen's the play for sure.
That includes, man, we got 14 fights on the book. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. I do believe the fight card is an early one. Main card starts at 4 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, which is always nice to see. Hopefully everybody makes weight this Saturday. No fiascos. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.